Hey folks, Andrew Packer here, and welcome to Trading Tips. Now they say baseball is America's pastime, and well, in summer it's a great time to catch a game. But honestly, when you look at what happens in America, when you look at how many people we are graduating from law schools every year, how much money we spend on lawyers, how much we think about legally protecting ourselves and our assets, well, it seems, we're kind of a nation that's maybe not obsessed with the law, but at least protecting ourselves legally. We live in a world with a lot of lawsuits, many of which can seem frivolous, but it can be even worse in corporate America. For instance, if I talk about hot coffee and McDonald's, most people will immediately think about that big lawsuit in the 1990s where some lady won millions and millions of dollars from a jury. And that's a great headline. But behind the fact of the matter is, this lady got third-degree burns on her lap from scalding hot coffee that was over 140 degrees when it came out of the percolator. When you put pictures of an old lady, which everyone thinks of as their grandma, in front of a jury, and you show these third-degree burns on someone's lap, and you realize, hey, she's only suing the company because she wanted to be reimbursed her medical expenses for that, well, a jury is probably going to say they've got big pockets. They should also have to pay something else for having to go to the trouble of, trying to legally battle this out. It would have been cheaper for McDonald's just to pay the medical bills. And today, a lot of companies now, when they're faced with these little types of things, they'll just pay it out rather than risk a lawsuit and having a jury weigh in and decide, hey, you've got to pay millions of dollars in fees on top of what you would actually have just owed had you paid out to begin with. So looking at the landscape across corporate America today, there's always a couple of lawsuits that are going on out there. Now, there's one that's going on right now that's having a little bit of a share price impact on a company that looks like an interesting potential buy right here. And that company is Johnson & Johnson, ticker JNJ. This is a pretty well-known company. Most people just see it as sort of that friendly family company that sells Band-Aids. And, well, it's certainly true that they do sell plain, simple, medical items like bandages, Band-Aids, that sort of thing. They're also involved in a lot of other higher-end medical products, pharmaceutical products, and, well, some of them contain opioids, and that's another political hotspot right now. So right now, in the state of Oklahoma, the company is currently defending themselves against a lawsuit on the grounds that their opioids were addictive, that they knew they were addictive, and they were selling it to the public anyway. Now again, with that McDonald's example, it seems like, there's a little more behind it than just that headline. I mean, after all, you don't just go from having opioid products to the customer. There's usually a doctor making a prescription in between there. And there are a lot of other factors. So it's hard to tell how this will play out, except that other companies that sell opioids were parties to the lawsuit and they've already settled out. So this will be an interesting one to pay attention to. And I think this could go one of several ways. Besides sort of the McDonald's example where you get a jury with a big payout, we could end up seeing what happened with the tobacco companies in the 1990s. After decades of all of the health information on the dangers of cigarettes coming out, after seeing all of the long-term impact of people who just smoked daily, weekly, just packs and packs a day, seeing like the health impact from that, a lot of companies and governments started going after the tobacco companies because these health problems were driving up healthcare costs, which is a huge government expense. People don't think about it, but programs like Medicare are a huge part of the budget, even bigger than military spending. So when you look at sort of the health problems and when you look at that, I see J&J as potentially being in this position where the tobacco companies were, where you're going to probably have some big lawsuits in the future that could continue to weigh on prices. So that said, where do things stand here? I think a lot of companies like J&J or some of the other pharmaceutical companies are going to be scaling back products that have opioids in them that are essentially legal to acquire, and we're going to get to a point where someone with an opioid addiction is going to have to turn to illegal markets, and it's an unfortunate and unpleasant thing, but from a corporate perspective, it's probably the kind of move like the cigarettes deciding, okay, we'll settle with the government, we'll agree not to advertise our products, we'll even fund anti-smoking efforts and information campaigns so that people know the dangers of these products. I think that's the path that the company is going to take, and looking at it right now, it's trading about 15 times earnings. That's a little bit of a discount to the overall stock market, trading at about 22, 23 times earnings. And it pays about a 2.8% dividend yield. So it's a pretty nice place to be in. But looking at the company's operating history of over 100 years and looking at how they've actually increased the total dollar amount of the dividend year in, year out, and they've become a dividend aristocrat, this is one that should really be on your watch list to pick up, especially on any kind of headline-related trial news. Because even if a jury ever comes back and says that a company like Johnson & Johnson should be on the hook for millions or even billions of dollars, Usually by the time there's appeals and settlements and that sort of thing, well, the lawyers have done very well, but also that total payout usually ends up being less and less, and that payout also usually gets stretched out over time. That's what happened with the tobacco companies. A lot of people feared them completely going out of business or being completely shut down. It didn't happen. And why would it happen? The money that the government gets for every pack of cigarettes it sells is huge. I mean, it's a much bigger tax than what you pay for sales tax in any state. So in the case of Johnson & Johnson, you're not going to shut down Band-Aids, you're not going to shut down their non-opioid pharmaceutical products. So you've got a nice little potential opportunity to buy in here. So looking at where shares have been trading, I would say take a look at picking up shares at or under 140 and expect them to be kind of in the headlines for the next few months or even a few years for kind of some wrong reasons. But you can also expect these periods of trial to make the company stronger as a result. And given their long operating history, I still think they have plenty of room ahead, and they'll continue to find new products that benefit their customers and benefit society as a whole. So that'll wrap things up for this edition of Trading Tips. Until next time, I'm Andrew Packer, wishing you good trading and good financial health.